The Taurian counterattack was swift and merciless. Destroyer-class vessels pounded the outskirts of the mining complex, while drop ships deployed elite shock troops. Ilara watched from the commandeered control center as the orbital bombardment lit up the night sky. "They're targeting power generators and water reclamation," Tauren reported, his four eyes blinking rapidly as he analyzed the tactical displays. "Standard procedure makes survival impossible before ground assault." "Evacuate the residential quadrants," Ilara ordered. "Move everyone to the underground processing facilities. Those walls were built to contain explosions." Kieran entered with a security team, his face grim. "Command relay from Eastern Complex. They've fallen back to secondary positions but are still holding." The next 48 hours became a brutal lesson in warfare. Former slaves who had never known violence beyond receiving it now organized defensive lines, established medical stations, and coordinated counterattacks. Ilara discovered her tactical intuition matched Kieran's battle experience, where he understood coalition military strategy. She knew every passageway, every structural weakness, every system vulnerability of the facility they'd maintained for generations. "They expect us to be disorganized," Kieran explained during a strategy session. "They're fighting by their manual. We need to be unpredictable." "The maintenance tunnels beneath Processing Section 8, Ilara suggested. "They connect to their main staging area. No Taurian would willingly enter those tunnels. The quintessence radiation levels are officially deemed unsafe." "But slaves work there daily," Myra added with bitter understanding. "Exactly. We can handle exposure long enough for a surprise attack." The plan worked. As Taurian forces consolidated for a major assault, Ilara led a strike team through the irradiated tunnels. The resulting battle claimed lives on both sides, but by dawn, the rebellion controlled the Taurians' forward command post and had captured critical supplies. The victory came with costs. Dak took a direct hit from an energy cannon while protecting the medical station. Dozens of others fell. Each death weighed on Ilara, each face memorized as a promise. During a rare quiet moment as they triaged the wounded, Kieran found her sitting alone, studying facility schematics. "You need rest," he said softly, sitting beside her. "I need to keep them alive," she replied, not looking up. His hand gently covered hers. "Leaders who don't rest make mistakes. The revolution needs you whole." Finally meeting his eyes, she whispered, "How do you bear it, sending people to die?" "By remembering they choose to fight," he answered. "You didn't force anyone into this rebellion, Ilara. You showed them possibility, and they decided their freedom was worth the risk." She leaned against him, allowing herself a moment of vulnerability. "I'm afraid of failing them." "That fear is what makes you worthy to lead them." He held her close, their foreheads touching. "And you're not alone in this." Their moment of peace shattered as emergency alerts blared. A new Taurian offensive had breached the northern perimeter. 6 days into the uprising, the tide began to turn. Coalition long-range scouts made contact, having detected the unusual Taurian fleet movements. With them came news that stunned even Kieran. The rebellion on Vexus had inspired slave revolts across 3 Taurian-controlled systems. "You're not just fighting for this facility anymore," the coalition commander told Ilara during their secure transmission. "You've become a symbol." That night, as Taurian artillery lit the horizon, Ilara and Kieran found brief solace in each other's arms. Their lovemaking carried the intensity of those who understood each moment might be their last, tender yet urgent, gentle yet fierce. In the aftermath, tracing patterns on his skin, Ilara voiced her deepest fear. "What happens if we win? I was born a slave. I don't know how to be anything else." Kieran kissed her softly. "Freedom isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about discovering them for yourself." At dawn, reports arrived of coalition ships engaging the Taurian fleet in orbit. The rebellion had gained its first powerful ally, and with it, a genuine chance at victory. As former slaves celebrated the news, Ilara stood before them, no longer just an insurgent but a leader whose vision had ignited a movement that now spanned the stars. "Tomorrow," she told Kieran as they prepared for the next assault, "we take the main command center, and then we're no longer fighting just to survive, we're fighting to truly live." The command center of Vexus Prime stood as a monolith of Taurian architecture, a fortress within a fortress, designed to be impregnable even if all other defenses failed. For 3 generations, slaves had polished its obsidian walls and maintained its systems without ever seeing its inner chambers. Now, those same slaves surrounded it from all sides. 90 days had passed since the first spark of rebellion. What began in mining section Delta had spread across the planet and beyond. Coalition forces had established a blockade against Taurian reinforcements, while liberated slave armies controlled most surface operations. Only Commander Vexter and his elite guard remained, barricaded in the central command with enough weaponry and supplies to withstand a long siege. Conventional assault would cost thousands of lives, Kieran noted as the Leadership Council studied holographic projections of the structure. The former human prisoner now wore the insignia of the Coalition's Special Operations Division, officially recognizing the joint resistance. "Then we don't use conventional methods," Alara replied. 3 months of warfare had transformed her. Gone was the hesitation, replaced by calculated confidence. The slave markings on her face were now complemented by battle scars, and the insignia of the Nyx Liberation Front emblazoned on her combat armor. Tauren manipulated the projection. The atmospheric processors, they connect directly to command center life support. "Could we disable them?" asked Myra. "Better," Alara said, a plan forming. "We reprogram them." The plan required precision timing and specialized knowledge that only former maintenance slaves possessed. While the main rebel forces launched a diversionary assault on the command center's primary defenses, Alara led a small team through the labyrinthine air purification system, tunnels designed for maintenance drones, barely large enough for humanoids to navigate. Kieran accompanied her despite her objections. "The Coalition needs you alive," she had argued during their final preparations. "The Coalition needs this victory," he countered, "and I need to see this through with you." Their journey through the maintenance shafts was harrowing. Automated security systems, toxic gas pockets, and near detection by Taurian patrols. When they finally reached the central environmental controls, they had mere minutes to implement their modifications before the system's diagnostic cycle would detect their presence. "Almost there," Alara whispered as she bypassed the final security protocol. "Atmospheric control accessed." With rapid keystrokes, she altered the air composition in the command center, not enough to kill, but sufficient to induce disorientation and weakness in Taurian physiology. An old slave trick, learned from generations working in the mines, now weaponized against their oppressors. The effects were evident within hours. Taurian defense patterns became erratic. Communication intercepts revealed confusion and impaired judgment among the command staff. When the final assault came, resistance forces breached the supposedly impregnable fortress with surprising ease. Alara and Kieran led the team that cornered Commander Vexter in his private chambers. The once imposing Taurian struggled to stand, his mighty frame weakened by the atmospheric alterations. "Impossible," he growled, still defiant even in defeat. "Slaves cannot defeat masters. It violates natural order." "There is nothing natural about oppression," Alara replied, her weapon trained steadily on him. "And we are slaves no longer." The commander was taken into custody, a prisoner to face justice from the very people he had subjugated. His capture signaled the final collapse of Taurian control on Vexus. As liberation forces secured the command center, Alara found herself on the facility's vast observation deck, gazing out at the landscape of her homeworld, seeing it truly for the first time. The endless mining pits and labor camps had always been places of suffering. Now, in the golden light of dusk, she saw possibility instead. Kieran found her there, his steps quiet as he joined her at the viewport. "The Coalition leadership wants to establish diplomatic relations with the Nyx government," he said. "Government?" Alara laughed softly. "We haven't had one in 3 generations." "Then you'll build one." His hand found hers. "The Nyx representatives need to depart for the Coalition summit within 2 weeks." She turned to face him fully. "And what about you? Return to special operations, more missions across the galaxy?" "That depends," he said, something vulnerable in his expression. "The Coalition needs a permanent liaison to the Nyx leadership, someone who understands both worlds." Hope, once so foreign to her, bloomed anew. "A diplomatic posting would keep you on Vexus." "If that's where I'm needed," his fingers traced the contours of her face. "If that's where I'm wanted." Their kiss carried the weight of all they had endured, the struggle, the loss, the triumph, and the promise of all that lay ahead. When they separated, Alara rested her forehead against his. "We have so much to rebuild," she whispered. "Yes," he agreed, "and now, finally, the freedom to decide how." Below them, across the liberated facility that had once been their prison, former slaves embraced their first night without chains. Musicians played instruments fashioned from mining tools. Children born into bondage laughed without fear. The elderly shared long-suppressed stories of their ancestors home among the stars. Alara and Kieran remained on the observation deck until dawn, watching as the first sunrise of true freedom bathed Vexus in golden light. No longer a world of slaves, but a world of possibility. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.